Hello.
My name is Mikhail, and I have always considered myself a happy person. I had a good job, a nice apartment in the city center, and most importantly, a loving wife, Inga. She was a charming woman who always knew how to cheer up and find words of support. We got married 7 years ago, and in all that time, I never doubted her faithfulness. But over the past few months, things have started to change. I have always been a person who believes in people, especially my wife. Inga was everything to me, and I couldn't even imagine that she could do something like this. However, one day when I came home early from work, everything changed. I didn't notice it right away, but something about her behavior was strange. She began to be late at work more often, explaining this by additional shifts. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then I noticed something else. One evening, I found a woman's dress in our bedroom that I had never seen before. It was clearly not her size, too short and tight. I asked Inga about it, and she just smiled, saying that she bought it for a friend who is celebrating her birthday soon. It seemed strange to me, but I did not suspect anything more. However, this little detail stuck in my mind, and I began to notice other things. Inga began to spend more time in the bathroom getting ready for work, used new perfumes that I had never seen before, and even bought herself several new sets of underwear, which was unusual for her. She was always more reserved in such matters. I decided that maybe she just wanted to change something about herself to feel better. One evening, when we were sitting together in the kitchen, I couldn't resist and decided to ask her directly, "Inga, what is happening to you lately?" "You have changed," she just smiled and said. "Mikhail, this is all your imagination. I just decided to change myself a little. But I knew something was wrong. I felt it deep in my heart, but I had no evidence to support my suspicions. So I decided not to touch her anymore and just watch. But the suspicions did not disappear, but only grew every day. And one day when I returned from a walk, I saw a black car near our house. Nothing special, but something about it caught my attention. I decided to get closer and noticed that a man I had never seen before was sitting in the car. He was middle-aged, well-dressed, and clearly waiting for someone. I passed the car but decided not to linger so as not to arouse suspicion. When I went up to our apartment, Inga was already at home. She looked a little flustered but quickly smiled when she saw me. I asked her about the man in the car, but she said she didn't know anything. I couldn't tell if she was lying, but something in her eyes made me wary. I decided it was time to take action. I needed to understand what was going on and if I should worry about our relationship. I began to watch Inga more carefully, trying not to show my suspicions. I noticed that she began to leave the house more often under various pretexts. Sometimes she went to meet friends, sometimes to go shopping, but she always came back a little later than she promised. One day I decided to follow her. She said she was going to meet a friend, but I decided to check it out. When Inga left the house, I quietly followed her. She walked quickly without looking back, and a few minutes later she stopped next to the same black car. The man got out of the car and they hugged. It was not just a friendly meeting. My heart sank in pain, but I knew it wasn't all. I decided not to draw any conclusions and continued to observe. Inga got into the car and they drove off together. I called a taxi and followed them. They were going to one of the hotels in the city center. I saw them go inside, and there was no doubt in my mind. My wife cheated on me, but what should I do next? How do I deal with this pain and betrayal? I stood outside the hotel watching them disappear into the lobby and knew this was just the beginning. I was standing outside the hotel and my blood was boiling in my veins. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it would burst out of my chest. I saw how Inga and that man went inside, embracing like a couple in love. They did not even look back, did not think that someone could see them. And so it became clear to me, my wife cheated on me and she did it brazenly, right under my nose. I have never considered myself jealous, never been the kind of man who would keep an eye on his wife or suspect her for no reason. But here, when I saw it with my own eyes, I realized that I could no longer remain silent. I wasn't going to stand by and wait for her to come home as if nothing had happened. No, this time I decided to act. I rushed into the hotel lobby. Adrenaline was tearing me to pieces, and I could barely hold myself back from doing something stupid. Approaching the reception desk, I asked the employee, "Excuse me, where did the woman in the red dress with the man in the gray suit go?" "I am their friend. I want to make a surprise. The girl at the reception looked at me suspiciously, but seeing my determined face, she pointed to the elevator. They went up to the 4th floor, number 408. I didn't say thank you. I quickly headed for the elevator. I was filled with rage. I imagined that I would find them there in the room, hugging and laughing. My heart sank with resentment, but I knew that I had to see everything with my own eyes. Otherwise, this doubt would never let go of me. When I got to the 4th floor, I stopped at room 408. I could hear muffled voices outside the door. It was her. I recognized her laugh, the same laugh that had once made me feel happy, but now only disgusted me. I didn't knock. I wasn't going to wait. I kicked the door and it flew open with such force that the sound echoed down the hall. The door opened and I saw them. They were in bed, half naked, in each other's arms. Their eyes widened in shock when they saw me in the doorway. "Mikhail!" Inga shouted, jumping up from the bed and trying to cover herself with a blanket. I took a step forward, looking at her with contempt and anger that filled my soul. "Yes, it's me," I said through gritted teeth. "How could you? How could you do this to me?" The man jumped out of bed, trying to pull on his pants. His face was pale with fear, but I didn't even pay him any attention. I was only interested in her. My wife, the woman I loved and trusted more than anyone in the world. "Mikhailo, it's not what you think," she began, but I didn't let her finish. "Not what I think?" I shouted. "You're here with another man in a hotel room, half naked, and you're telling me it's not what I think." My body was shaking with anger. I wanted to tear this man to pieces, but I couldn't even move. All my feelings converged into one point. Rage, disappointment, pain. She betrayed me. She cheated on me. "And how long does it last?" I asked, trying to hold my breath. "How long did you sleep with him?" Inga was silent, only clutching the blanket, hiding her face, which I once loved so much. She couldn't even look me in the eye. I realized that I didn't need an answer. She was already in front of me. The man finally put on his pants and stood between us, trying to speak in a calm tone. "Listen, my friend, it's not that..." I didn't let him finish. I grabbed him by the shirt and slammed him against the wall. His face contorted in pain, but I didn't stop. "You think I'm your friend?" I shouted. "You're coming into my life, to my woman, and you think we're friends?" Inga screamed, trying to intervene, but I pushed her away. I didn't care about her screams. I did not let go of the man who tried to escape from my arms. My anger only grew. "Get out of here," I said, pushing him toward the door. "If I see you near her again, I will kill you." The man grabbed his clothes and quickly ran out of the room without looking back. Inga remained standing in front of me, still clutching the blanket. "Mikhailo, I'm asking you," she began, but I interrupted her again. "You don't have the right to ask for anything anymore," I said coldly. "You betrayed me. You lied to me. I will never forgive you for this." I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her alone. My hands were shaking as I walked down the hall. I could not believe that all this was happening to me. How could she? How could she do this to me? I could hear her crying in the room, but it didn't matter anymore. I went outside and the cold air chilled my face. I needed to step away, collect my thoughts. But one thing was clear. This story is not over. I needed to know more. I had to find out how long she had been deceiving me and what I should do next. But most importantly, I realized that I am no longer the man I was before. My trust was broken, my heart was broken, and I had no intention of stopping until I knew the whole truth. This is just the beginning. Inga does not yet know what awaits her, and I will do everything to make her pay for her betrayal. I returned home, but I did not find peace. My mind was filled with images of Inga with that man, and I couldn't get them out of my head. She betrayed me, and now I felt betrayed in everything. But my anger and indignation did not disappear. No, they only grew, burning me from the inside. I understood that I had to act. She couldn't just wait and let her continue playing the role of a loving wife. I decided not to tell Inza that I had returned home. Let him think I'm still in the hotel, shocked and confused. Let him think that I am devastated and do not know what to do next. She had no idea that my mind was working at full capacity, planning how to expose all her lies and expose her. I decided to start with her phone. She left him at home when she went to see that man. I picked it up and started going through the messages. She always used a password, but I knew it. I knew her better than she thought. And so the phone is unlocked, and in front of me are all her secrets. The first thing I noticed was that she often communicated with the same man, Valentin. Their messages were filled with unambiguous hints and romantic expressions. They met not for the first time, and it was clear from their correspondence. She told him how much she missed him, how she wanted to see him again. I could feel my heart clench in pain, but I continued to read. I had to know everything. In one of the messages, she even joked that she would leave me and go to him, and he replied that he would always be happy about it. I gripped the phone so hard that my fingers turned white. They discussed me, my life, our marriage, as if it were some kind of game. They thought I would never know, but now I knew, and I wasn't going to just let it go. I decided to act immediately. I called an old friend of mine who worked at a CCTV installation company. I asked him to install some cameras in our apartment. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't ask. I explained that it was personal, and he understood. The cameras were installed the very next day. I placed them in different parts of the apartment, in the living room, in the kitchen, even in the bedroom. I wanted to know her every move, her every word. I wanted to see her lie to my face when I asked her about Valentin. I wanted to see her try to justify herself. Inga returned home the next morning. She looked exhausted but tried to smile. She even brought me my favorite croissants from the local bakery, as if that would make a difference. "Good morning, Mikhail," she said, trying to act as if nothing had happened. "I bought you your favorite croissants. Shall we have breakfast together?" I looked at her and felt the anger rising inside me, but I held back. I chose not to show my cards. "Thank you, Ingo," I said, trying to keep calm. "How was your evening?" She hesitated for a moment, but then answered, "Oh, I just met up with my friends. We drank wine, talked. You know how it goes. I saw her lie to my face and it drove me nuts, but I held back. I decided I would first see what she did next. Over the next few days, I watched her through the cameras. She didn't know that I was watching her every move. I saw her sitting in the kitchen, texting, smiling at her phone. I knew she was talking to him. I saw her cooking dinner as if nothing had happened, as if our marriage had not been destroyed by her betrayal. I saw her leaving the house dressed in a way she had never dressed for me before. She wore dresses I'd never seen before, put on makeup, spent hours in the bathroom. She was preparing for meetings with him. I knew that, and I knew it was time to act. One evening, when she left the house again under the pretext of meeting friends, I decided to follow her. I walked quietly, watching her every step. She went to the same hotel where I had already seen her with Valentin. I stood in the shadows watching her walk inside. I didn't wait. I quickly headed to the reception desk and asked in which room the woman in the red dress was staying. The receptionist, remembering me from the last time, did not ask too many questions and said that she was on the 5th floor. I went up to the 5th floor and heard their voices from outside the door. They laughed and talked. I heard her laugh, the same laugh I had heard for years. But now it sounded like mockery. I heard them joking, him calling her my sweetie, and it went off inside me like an explosive. I didn't wait. I kicked the door and it flew open. I flew to the room and saw them together. They were in each other's arms again, just like then. "Do you seriously think you can hide it from me?" I yelled as I felt the anger welling up inside me. "You really think I won't find out?" Inga jumped when she saw me, but this time there was fear in her eyes. She understood that this time I would not just leave. Valentin tried to run away again, but I didn't let him do it. I grabbed his arm and slammed him against the wall. "Are you thinking of running away again?" I shouted. "You think I'll just let you go this time?" He looked scared, but I wasn't going to stop. I wanted them both to feel the pain I felt. Inga shouted, begged me to stop, but I didn't listen. All my thoughts were focused on one thing: revenge. I wanted her to know that I was not who she thought I was. I will not be silent and suffer. I threw Valentin on the floor and approached Inga. She was crying. Her face was wet with tears. She tried to say something, but I held up my hand, silencing her. "Did you want this?" I asked. "Did you want to destroy everything we built together?" She was silent, and I realized that it was enough. I turned away and went to the door, leaving them there. I knew this fight wasn't over yet, but I needed to get away now. I needed to think about the next step. I left the hotel and realized that I would not be silent anymore. I will tell everyone, I will show everyone that she betrayed me, and I won't stop until she pays for everything she's done. After that scene in the hotel, I knew there was no going back. Inga betrayed me, and that man, Valentin, only added fuel to the fire of my rage. But my mind worked clearly. I knew that keeping calm was the best way to get what I wanted. I came home and didn't say a word to her that night. Inga tried to talk to me, apologized, explained that everything was a mistake, that she got confused, but I didn't listen to her. Now I didn't believe a word she said. I needed a plan. I decided that the first step would be to reveal it to everyone. I didn't want her lie to remain a secret. I wanted everyone to know what she was really like. So the next day I invited our friends and relatives to our house. I said I wanted to have dinner to discuss important things. Inga was surprised but did not object. Maybe she thought I would forgive her, or that we could talk things out and start over. How wrong she was. When the guests gathered, I acted as if everything was fine. I raised my glass and made a toast to our family, to our friendship. Inga was smiling, but I could see how her eyes were searching for my gaze. She knew something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out what. When everyone had already sat down at the table, I finally decided that it was time. I stood up and tapped the glass to get attention. "Dear friends, family," I began, and everyone around fell silent. "I want to share some news with you. You might think that Inga and I are celebrating something special, but actually I want to tell you the truth about our situation." Inga looked at me with wide open eyes. I saw her turn pale and knew that she was finally beginning to realize what was happening. "For the past few months," I continued, "I suspected that Inga was hiding something from me. And as it turned out, my suspicions were not unfounded." I took out my phone and connected it to the TV hanging on the wall. Everyone turned their heads to the screen, and I pressed the play button. The video showed a scene from the hotel where Inga and Valentin kissed and hugged. Everyone in the room froze, and then muffled shouts and whispers began. "It's true," I said, addressing the audience. "My wife cheated on me. She cheated on me, and I want you all to know about it." Inga jumped up from her seat, trying to snatch the phone from my hands, but I was faster. I raised my hand and pushed her back. "How dare you?" she shouted. "How dare you do this in front of everyone? How dare I asked, feeling the anger rising in me again. "You dare to betray me, lie to me, and then pretend that everything is fine." I saw our friends and relatives looking at us, not knowing what to say. Most of them were shocked. Some tried to intervene, to calm us down, but I didn't want to hear a word. "You have no idea how you humiliated me," I continued. "Did you think I would never find out that you were seeing another man behind my back? Did you think you could keep up this lie forever?" Inga stood in front of me. Her face was white with fear and shame. She tried to say something, but her words were meaningless and unconvincing. I didn't listen to her anymore. "Now everyone knows who you really are," I said. "I won't be your fool anymore. I am filing for divorce." With these words, I left the room, leaving Inga there, in the circle of our friends and relatives, humiliated and disgraced. I knew my actions might seem cruel, but I couldn't let her get away with what she did. I went outside and took a deep breath. The air was cool and fresh, and I felt the tension gradually release from me. But I knew it wasn't the end. I knew that Inga would not leave it like that. She will try to come back, will beg me to forgive her, will try to justify her actions. And I was ready for it. I was ready to fight. I knew I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I won't let her make a fool of me anymore. Over the next few days, Inga really tried everything. She called me, wrote messages, came to my work. She begged me to talk to her, to give her a chance to explain everything. But I didn't want to listen to her. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't open the door when she came. I knew that whatever she said would be a lie. One evening when I returned home, I saw her in front of our apartment. She looked exhausted and tearful. She knelt before me, holding my hands, and began to beg. "Mikhail, please give me one more chance. I know I was wrong. I know I betrayed you, but I love you. I never wanted to hurt you." I looked at her, and it was hard to tell if she was telling the truth or if this was just another manipulation of hers. But I knew one thing. I could no longer live with her after everything that had happened. Inga, I said, looking straight into her eyes, you've already made your choice, and now I do mine. Our marriage is no more. There is nothing left between us. She cried even harder, but I wasn't going to give in to her tears. I opened the apartment door and went inside, leaving her on the landing. I heard her screaming my name, begging me to come back. But I knew that this would not happen again. That was the end. The end of our marriage, the end of our story. And although I knew there would be many difficult moments ahead, I felt that I had made the right choice. But I still did not know what was waiting for me ahead. I did not yet know that Inga was not going to give up so easily. A few weeks have passed since I kicked Inga out of our house. I decided to start a new life without her, try to forget everything that happened and move on. But everything was not so simple. She still lingered in my head, her face haunting me at night. Her betrayal was a deep wound that would not heal. Every day I received a message from her. She sent me long texts begging for forgiveness, trying to explain her actions, promising that she would never do anything like that again. She said that Valentin was just a mistake, that she never stopped loving me. But I couldn't believe her. I knew that if I gave her any slack, she would go back to her old life. And then one day when I was at work, I received a call from our neighbor. He said that he saw Inga near our apartment. She looked strange, he said, like she was looking for something or someone. I tried to ignore it, but a light of anxiety went on in my head. What is she doing here? Why did you come back? When I got home, I found our apartment door open. I froze for a moment, feeling my heart quicken its rhythm. I slowly went inside and saw her. She stood in our bedroom, held my things in her hands and threw them into the suitcase. What are you doing? I asked, trying to hold back my anger. She raised her head and I saw that her eyes were red with tears. I'm just trying to get my things, she answered in a shaky voice. I thought you wouldn't be at home. Get out, I said sharply. I don't want to see you here. You already got your chance and you lost it. She threw things on the floor and started crying. Mikhail, I'm begging you, she said, coming closer. I don't know what to do. I can't live without you. I made a mistake. I know that. But please, give me one more chance. I felt something break inside me. Her words hit me hard, but I knew I couldn't believe her anymore. You betrayed me, I said, trying to control myself. You lied to me, and now you want me to just forget all about it? It won't be like that, Inga. She fell to her knees in front of me, tears streaming down her face. I'll do anything, she pleaded. I know that I betrayed you, but I am ready to fix everything. Please give me another chance. I looked at her and felt the anger rising in me again, but this time it was a different kind of anger. Anger at myself for letting her manipulate me for so long. I no longer wanted to be her victim. Inga, I said coldly, you no longer have power over me. You made your choice, and now live with its consequences. I turned to leave, but suddenly she grabbed my arm. Mikhail, wait, she shouted. There is something else you should know about. I stopped and turned to her. Her eyes were full of fear, and I could feel my heart racing. What do you want to say? I asked, feeling a chill creep up my spine. She hesitated, as if she did not know how to begin. Valentin, she began, swallowing tears. He blackmailed me. He said that if I don't leave you, he will tell everyone about our relationship. I shuddered at her words. Are you saying he made you betray me? No, it's not like that, she answered quickly. But when I wanted to finish with him, he started threatening. He said he would tell everyone that we had an affair, that he would tell you and all our friends. I was afraid, Mikhail. I didn't know what to do. I stood there listening to her, and I didn't know if I could believe her. Perhaps this is another lie of hers, another attempt to make me pity her. But something in her voice made me think. And what did you do? I asked, trying to control myself. I agreed to meet him, she answered. I thought I could convince him to let me go, but each time he demanded more. And when I realized that he would not let me go just like that, I was already involved too deeply. I felt my anger begin to fade, replaced by a sense of confusion. If she is telling the truth, then Valentin is not just a lover, he is also a manipulator and blackmailer. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I asked. Why didn't you turn to me for help? I was afraid, she whispered. I was afraid that you would never forgive me. I was afraid that you would hate me. I was silent, considering her words. If Valentin really blackmailed her, then that changes everything. But I still couldn't decide if I could trust her. And what now? I asked, looking into her eyes. You think I'll just forgive all of this and we can start over? She lowered her head, her shoulders shaking slightly. I don't know what will happen next, she whispered. But I know one thing. I want to be with you. I want to fix everything I did wrong. I looked at her and felt a strange feeling rise up in me. Something between pity and understanding. Maybe she really repents. Maybe she really wants to make things right. But before I could make up my mind, my phone rang. It was my friend, the same one who helped me set up the cameras. Mikhail, he said hurriedly, we have problems. That man, Valentin, he's trying to get into your apartment. I think he knows you installed the cameras. My heart froze. What do you mean? He is standing in front of the door trying to break the lock. You have to do something quickly. I felt a chill creep up my spine. If Valentin found out about the cameras, it means that he knows about my plans. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. Ingo, stay here, I said, and rushed to the door. I had to stop him before he could do something dangerous. I understood that this evening could be a turning point in my life, and I was ready for it. I knew there was still a fight ahead, and this time I wasn't planning on losing. I left the apartment, almost tearing the door off its hinges, and rushed down the stairs. Everything inside me was boiling. If Valentin tries to get into my apartment, it means that he knows about the cameras, knows that I am hunting him, and now he is here, on my territory. I couldn't let him do that. I knew this evening could be the end, either for him or for me, but I was ready for it. I flew down the stairs and saw him. Valentin was standing at the door of my apartment, fiddling with the lock, trying to break it. When he saw me, his face contorted with anger and hatred. Ah, you're finally here, he said with a smile on his lips. I knew you wouldn't leave me alone. I stopped just a few meters away from him. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it pounding in my chest. What are you doing here, Valentin? I asked, trying to stay calm. Do you want to make your life even more difficult? He laughed, and this laugh was filled with mockery. Make life difficult for yourself? You are funny, Mikhail. You think you can just film me and move on? You think you can use that against me? I moved closer, feeling the anger rise within me again. You manipulated my wife, I said, trying not to raise my voice. You blackmailed her, forced her to meet you, and now you want to say that this is normal? Valentin raised his hands as if defending himself. Oh, let's not make a monster out of me, Mikhail. Inga was a free woman. She made her own decisions. If she chooses to leave you, that's her choice, not mine. I felt my fist clench. His words were like a blade that cut me from the inside. She never left me, I said. She got confused and you used that to manipulate her. But it's over. Now you have to go. Valentin smiled, his eyes shining with anger. Do you want me to go? Do you think it's that simple? He suddenly rushed at me, trying to knock me down. But I was ready. I dodged and hit him in the chest. He sighed and stepped back, but he didn't give up. He lunged at me again, this time trying to grab my neck. We fell to the floor, and I felt his fist hit me in the face. Pain shot through me, but I wasn't going to give up. I brought my knee up and hit him in the stomach. He sighed and loosened his grip, and I used that to flip him onto his back. We rolled on the floor, exchanging blows. I could feel the blood running down my face, but I ignored it. My rage was stronger than the pain. I knew I had to stop him, stop this horror once and for all. Finally, I managed to take him by the collar and lift him to his feet. I pressed him against the wall, his face only inches away from mine. You've ruined my life, I said, feeling anger welling up inside me. You destroyed my family, and now you will pay for it. Valentin smiled, his lips parted in a mocking smile. Shall I cry? He repeated. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Do you think you can do something for me? I didn't let him finish. I slammed his face into the wall and heard him groan in pain. I could see blood starting to flow from his nose. But that didn't stop me. I hit him again and again until I felt him start to weaken. I threw him on the floor and bent over him. You will never touch Inga again, I said coldly. You will never come near my house again. You leave us alone. Otherwise, I will destroy you." He was lying on the floor holding his face. He was breathing hard, but I could see the fear in his eyes. Okay, he muttered. I understood. I will go. I rose to my feet, feeling the adrenaline slowly leave my body. I felt pain in every muscle, but this pain was sweet. It was the pain of victory. "And one more thing," I said, looking down at him. "If I ever see you near her again, near my house or anywhere near, I won't be so merciful anymore." He nodded as he struggled to his feet. I watched as he slowly walked away, holding onto the wall. He looked broken and humiliated, but I felt no pity. He deserved it. When he finally disappeared around the corner, I returned to my apartment. Inga sat on the floor, holding her head in her hands. She looked up as I walked in, and I saw fear in her eyes. "What happened?" she asked in a trembling voice. "It's over," I replied. "He will never bother you again." She cried, her body shaking with sobs. I came closer and hugged her, holding her tight. She may have made a mistake, but she was my wife, and I couldn't leave her like this. "Everything will be fine," I said quietly, stroking her head. "Everything will be fine." But deep down, I knew that this was just the beginning. I knew there would be many challenges ahead, but I was ready for them. I was ready to defend myself, to fight for my life and my happiness. And while that night would leave its scars on my heart, I felt that we could get through it all together. But what now? Can we find our way back to who we were before? Can we rebuild trust? Can we start over? I didn't know the answer to these questions, but I was willing to try. But will it be enough? The next few days were filled with silence and tension. After I kicked Valentin out and chased him away, Inga stayed at home. She barely spoke to me, and I couldn't gather my thoughts to say anything meaningful to her. We were in the same room, but as if on different planets. I knew we both felt confused and broken. We were two broken pieces of one whole that no longer knew how to put themselves back together. I was sitting in the kitchen, looking at the empty cup in front of me, when Inga entered the room. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were red from constant tears and her face was pale. She sat down across from me, and we looked at each other in silence. I didn't know what to say, how to start this conversation that has been brewing for so long. "Mikhail," she finally said, her voice trembling. "I know I hurt you. I know I ruined everything we had. But I don't want to lose you. I want to try to fix everything." I felt something stirring inside me. Maybe it was the same feeling that tied me to her all these years. I felt anger and frustration, but also a desire to make things right. "Ingo," I said with a sigh, "do you understand that we will never be the same again?" She nodded, and I saw tears rolling down her cheeks again. "I know," she whispered, "but I want to try. I want to fight for us, if you want to." I was silent, considering her words. I thought about all those years we spent together, all those moments when we were happy, all those nights when we dreamed about our future together. I knew that this decision could not be made hastily, but I also knew that I couldn't leave everything we had without trying at least once. "Okay," I finally said, "let's try. But you must understand that it will not be easy, and I don't know if I can forgive you completely." She nodded, and I saw hope in her eyes. It was the first time in a long time that I saw anything but fear and shame. We decided to start over. We saw a marriage counselor to try to sort out our feelings and see if we could work things out. We worked on ourselves, on our communication, tried to be frank with each other, but every day I felt my suspicion grow. I wanted to believe that she had changed, that she really wanted to make things right. But every time her phone rang, or every time she left the room, I felt a wave of disbelief rise through me. I couldn't control her. It was like a poison seeping into every corner of my mind, burning everything in its path. One evening, while we were sitting on the couch, I decided to finally talk about what was bothering me. "Ingo," I said, trying to keep my cool, "do you still talk to him?" She shuddered, her eyes wide. "No, of course not," she replied, but I noticed her gaze averted. "Are you sure?" I insisted. "Because I don't know if I can trust you completely after everything." She looked at me, and I could see her face filled with determination. "I understand how you feel," she said, "but I have no connection with him. I want to be only with you." Her words sounded sincere, but something in her eyes told me that she was not telling the whole truth. I knew I had to check it out. The next day when she left for work, I decided to check her phone again. I wasn't proud of it, but I couldn't stop. I knew that if I didn't learn the truth now, this suspicion would haunt me for a long time. I opened her phone and started checking her messages. Nothing suspicious. She really stopped communicating with Valentin. But when I opened her email, I saw a letter from some strange man. The letter was short, but what was written in it made me freeze. Waiting for you tonight. M double quote. I felt a chill creep up my spine. Who is this? And what does he mean? I decided not to waste time. I sent the letter back asking for a time and place. After a few minutes, the answer came. 2000, our usual bar. I felt my heart sink. She cheated on me again. Maybe it wasn't Valentin, but it was another man, and she still lied to me. I decided to go to the end. I went to the bar at 8 in the evening, as the letter said. I knew she could come at any minute. I sat in the corner, my face hidden behind my hat, watching everyone who came in. And so, after a few minutes, I saw her. She went inside, looked around, and approached the bar. She looked nervous, but not confused. She ordered a drink and sat down at a table, obviously waiting for someone. I began to feel the anger come over me again. She lied to me. She said she wanted to make things right, but she still continued to see another man. I stood up and walked over to her. She didn't see me right away, and I stopped right in front of her, looking her in the eye. Ingo, I said quietly but firmly. What are you doing here? She flinched and lifted her head, her eyes widening in shock. Mikhail, what are you doing here? I have to ask you that question, I said, holding back my anger. You said that you want to fix everything, but you are here, waiting for another man. She opened her mouth but couldn't find the words. I saw her face turn pale. It's not what you think, she started, but I didn't let her finish. Not what I think, I shouted, and now everyone in the bar was looking at us. You are lying to me again. You are deceiving me again. She started crying, but I couldn't take it anymore. I turned away and headed for the exit, leaving her there at the bar for everyone to see. I stopped outside and breathed in the cold air. I realized that this game is over. She made her choice, and I did mine. That was the end, this time forever. I had no intention of going back. I decided to start a new life without her, without lies, without betrayal. I went home feeling strangely relieved. Yes, it hurt, but it was a new beginning. The beginning of the life I deserved, and I knew I would never look back.
Bye-bye.